Hi everyone, welcome back to KG Graves. We're still over in Ireland on a rather wet day. We're in Roselawn Cemetery in Belfast and we're here to visit the grave of professional footballer George Best. More information about George coming up shortly, but as usual, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell.
Best again. A glorious goal by Best. What a magnificent goal by Best. A masterpiece of a goal by Best. Turning outside him on the right. Doesn't need to use him. Aston trying to set it up for Best. Oh, yes indeed. How about that fella? Isn't that Nemo's goal? What a great goal, George Best.
George Best was born on the 22nd of May 1946 in Belfast, Northern Ireland, to parents Richard and Anne, née Withers. He was a Northern Ireland professional footballer. He had 5 siblings, 4 sisters, Carol, Barbara, Julia and Grace, and 1 brother, Ian. In 1957, the academically gifted George passed the 11 plus and went to Grosvenor High School, but he soon played truant as the school specialised in rugby union. He then moved to Lisnashirog Secondary School, reuniting him with friends from primary school and allowing him to focus on football. He played for Cregar Boys Club. He grew up supporting Glentoran and Wolverhampton Wanderers. His mother Anne died from alcoholism-related cardiovascular disease in 1978 at the age of 55. His father died in 2008 at the age of 88 in the Ulster Hospital in Dundonald, Northern Ireland. At the age of 15, George was discovered in Belfast by Manchester United scout Bob Bishop, whose telegram to United manager Matt Busby read, "I think I've found you a genius." He was subsequently given a trial and signed up by United's chief scout, Joe Armstrong. His first time moving to the club, George quickly became homesick and stayed for only 2 days before going back to Northern Ireland. He returned to Manchester and spent 2 years as an amateur, as English clubs were not allowed to take Northern Irish players on as apprentices. He was given a job as an errand boy on the Manchester Ship Canal, allowing him to train with the club twice a week. George made his first division debut, aged 17, on the 14th of September 1963 against West Bromwich Albion at Old Trafford in a 1-0 victory. He then dropped back into the reserves before scoring his first goal for the first team in his second appearance in a 5-1 win over Burnley on the 28th of December. Manager Matt Busby then kept George in the team, By the end of the 1963-64 season, he had made 26 appearances, scoring 6 goals. Manchester United finished second, 4 points behind Liverpool. In the 1964-65 season, his first full season as a first-team regular, George helped Manchester United to claim the league title. A 1-0 victory at Elland Road proved decisive, as the title race came down to a goal average between the Red Devils and bitter rivals Leeds United. Leeds managed to gain some measure of revenge though, by knocking Manchester United out of the FA Cup at the semi-final stage. Over the course of the campaign, George contributed 14 goals in 59 competitive games. The rising star of English football, George was catapulted to superstar status at the age of 19, when he scored 2 goals in a European Cup quarter-final match against Benfica on the 9th of March 1966. In the 1965-66 season, George was injured from the 26th of March onwards, with a twisted knee following a bad tackle from a Preston North End player. United staff claimed it was light ligament damage to keep him on the field for the rest of the campaign. He had little faith in the United medical staff, and so he secretly saw Glenn Torrens, physiotherapist, who readjusted his ligaments in a painful procedure. His last game of the season, his knee strapped up, came on the 13th of April, a 2-0 defeat to Partizan Belgrade at the Partizan Stadium. The 1966-67 season was again successful, as Manchester United claimed the league title by 4 points. He scored 10 goals in 45 games. He then helped the Red Devils to share the Charity Shield with a 3-3 draw with FA Cup winners Tottenham Hotspur. It was the first game to be broadcast in colour on British television. George scored twice against rivals Liverpool in a 2-0 win at Anfield, and claimed a hat-trick against Newcastle United in a 6-0 home win on the penultimate league game of the season. However, a home defeat to local rivals Manchester City proved costly, as City claimed the league title with a 2-point lead over United. During the 1967-68 season, George was the First Division's joint top scorer, level on 28 goals with Southampton's Ron Davis. He was presented with the FWA Footballer of the Year award, becoming the youngest ever recipient. He also won the Ballon d'Or in 1968 after receiving more votes than Bobby Charlton, Dragan Djordjic and Franz Beckenbauer. This meant that he had won the 3 major honours in club football at the age of just 22, the league title, European Cup and European Player of the Year award. After this, a steady decline began. The Holy Trinity of George, Dennis Law and Bobby Charlton was still as effective as ever in the 1968-69 campaign, although it became obvious that the club's new recruits were not up to scratch, as United dropped to 11th in the league before Matt Busby announced his retirement. George later said that, "I increasingly had the feeling that I was carrying the team at times on the pitch." He scored 22 goals in 55 games. United improved slightly under new boss Wilf McGuinness, but still only had an 8th place finish in the 1969-70 season. George hit 23 goals, including an FA Cup record 6 goals in an 8-2 win over Northampton Town in a mud bath at the county ground on the 7th of February 1970. His 6-goal performance earned him an invitation to number 10 Downing Street from UK Prime Minister Harold Wilson, who had already written fan letters to him. In 2002, the British public voted his record-breaking performance number 26 in the list of 100 greatest sporting moments. Matt Busby returned as manager in December 1970, though the 1970-71 season also ended without a trophy. George began to get into trouble with his discipline. He was fined by the Football Association for receiving 3 bookings for misconduct and was suspended by United for 2 weeks after missing his train to Stamford Bridge so as to spend a weekend with actress Sinead Cusack. New manager Frank O'Farrell led United to an 8th place finish in the 1971-72 season. Highlights for George included hat-tricks against West Ham United and Southampton, as well as a goal against Sheffield United that came after he beat 4 defenders. However, he was also sent off against Chelsea, was the subject of death threats and failed to turn up for training for a whole week in January. Instead, he spent his time with Miss Great Britain 1971, Carolyn Moore. On the 17th of November, he was a subject of the television show This Is Your Life, when he was surprised by Eamon Andrews at a central London restaurant. He would also be the subject for a second time in 2003, when Michael Aspel surprised him at Teddington Studios. With 27 goals in 54 appearances, George finished as the club's top scorer for the 6th and final consecutive season. He then announced his retirement from football, but nevertheless turned up for pre-season training and continued to play. United's decline continued in the 1972-73 season. Frustrated with the club's decline, George went missing in December to party at London nightclubs. He was suspended and transfer listed at a value of £300,000. After O'Farrell was replaced as manager by Tommy Docherty, George announced his retirement for a second time. He resumed training on the 27th of April. George's last competitive game for the club was on the 1st of January 1974 against Queen's Park Rangers at Loftus Road, which United lost 3-0. He failed to turn up for training 3 days later and was dropped by Docherty, though he claimed Docherty was deceitful with him. George was arrested and charged with stealing a fur coat, passport and chequebook from Marjorie Wallace, but was later cleared of all charges. United went on to suffer relegation into the second division in the 1973-74 season. In total, George made 474 appearances for Manchester United in all competitions from 1963 to 1974 and scored 181 goals. Over the next decade, he went into an increasingly rapid decline, drifting between several clubs, including spells in South Africa, the Republic of Ireland, the United States, Scotland and Australia. A highly skillful winger, considered by several pundits to be one of the greatest dribblers in the history of the sport, George received plaudits for his playing style, which, combined with pace, skill, balance, feints, two-footedness, goal-scoring and the ability to get past defenders. Pelé declared that George was the greatest footballer he'd ever seen. Recalling his career and style of play, sports writer Patrick Barclay said, "In terms of ability, he was the world's best footballer of all time. He could do almost anything, technically, speed, complete mastery of not only the ball but his own body. You could saw his legs away and he still wouldn't fall because his balance was uncanny, almost supernatural. Heading ability, passing ability, I mean it goes without saying that dribbling, he could beat anybody in any way he chose. For fun, he'd play a 1-2 off the opponent's shins." In an interview, Manchester United's Alex Stepney said, "Best would knock the ball onto the goalkeeper's shin, who would be rushing towards his feet to close down the angle, and the ball would bounce back to him and he would score. No one has been able to emulate that in football." In his personal life, George married Angela MacDonald Janes on the 24th of January 1978 at the candlelit wedding chapel in Las Vegas, having met her in the United States when he was playing for the Los Angeles Aztecs in 1976. Their son Callum was born in 1981. They separated in 1982 and divorced in 1986. He married Alex Percy in 1995 in Kensington and Chelsea, London. They divorced in 2004 with no children. In 2004, she alleged that George was violent towards her at times during their marriage, an issue that was covered in his authorised 1998 biography called Best, in which Alex claimed that George punched her in the face on more than one occasion. Earlier in the book, it is revealed that he struck another of his girlfriends at least once and was arrested and charged with assault on a waitress, Stevie Slonica, in November 1972 when he fractured her nose in Rubens nightclub in Manchester. He was successfully defended when the case reached court in January 1973 by barrister George Carman QC, a close drinking companion of George, as acknowledged in his book Scoring at Half-Time. George opened a nightclub called Slack Alice on Bootle Street in Manchester in 1973 and owned restaurants in the city, including Oscar's, on the site of the old Waldorf Hotel. He also owned fashion boutiques. George appeared in several TV commercials and also made a cameo in the 1971 British comedy film Percy. In 1984, he made a fitness album with Mary Stavin called Shape Up and Dance. The Farms video for their 1992 cover version of the Human League's Don't You Want Me featured George mouthing the chorus. A biographical film entitled Best was released in May 2000 with John Lynch portraying George Best. Indie rock band The Wedding Present named their first album George Best and featured him on the cover wearing his red Manchester United kit. After his death, Brian Kennedy and Peter Corrie released a single entitled George Best A Tribute. In 2007, GQ magazine named him as one of the 50 most stylish men of the past 50 years. When George played football, salaries were a fraction of what top players earn today, but with his pop star image and celebrity status, he still earned a fortune. He lost almost all of it. When asked what happened to the money he had earned, George quipped, "I spent a lot of money on booze, birds, as in women, and fast cars. The rest I just squandered." George suffered from alcoholism for most of his adult life, leading to numerous controversies and eventually his death. In 1981, while playing in the United States, he stole from a woman by taking money from her handbag in order to fund a drinking session. He recalled the incident. "We were sitting in a bar on the beach, and when she got up to go to the toilet, I leaned over and took all the money she had in her handbag." In 1984, he received a 3-month prison sentence for drunk driving, assaulting a police officer and failing to answer bail. He spent Christmas 1984 at Ford Open Prison. In September 1990, George appeared on the primetime BBC chat show Wogan, in which he was heavily drunk and swore, at one point saying to the host, "Terry, I like screwing." In 2002, he told The Guardian, "I was ill and everyone could see it but me." Let's take a look at the clip.
George Best, I can see him coming at me from across the stage. The eyes are glazed, and I knew the worst had happened. He'd shunted down several bucketfuls in about 5 minutes. So he comes across to me, and he's as drunk as a skunk.
"Terry, I like screwing, all right?"
Oh, all right. So what do you do with your time these days?
Screw.
I see. Ladies and gentlemen, George Best.
George was diagnosed with severe liver damage in March 2000. His liver said was to be functioning only at 20%. In 2001, he was admitted to hospital with pneumonia. At the end of July and start of August 2002, he had a successful liver transplant at the private Cromwell Hospital in London. He hemorrhaged so badly during the operation that he nearly died. The transplant was performed at public expense on the National Health Service, NHS, a decision that was controversial due to his alcoholism. The controversy was reignited in 2003 when he was spotted openly drinking white wine spritzers. On the 2nd of February 2004, George was convicted of another drink driving offence and banned from driving for 20 months. George continued to drink and was sometimes seen at his local pub in Surbiton, London. On the 3rd of October 2005, he was admitted to intensive care at the private Cromwell Hospital in London, suffering from a kidney infection caused by the side effects of immunosuppressive drugs used to prevent his body from rejecting his transplanted liver. On the 27th of October, newspapers stated that George was close to death and had sent a farewell message to his loved ones. Close friends in the game visited his bedside to make their farewells, including Rodney Marsh, Bobby Charlton and Dennis Law. On the 20th of November, the tabloid News of the World published a picture of George at his own request, showing him in his hospital bed with jaundice, along with a warning about the dangers of alcohol, with his message, "Don't die like me." In the early hours of the 25th of November 2005, treatment was stopped. Later that day, he died, aged 59, as a result of lung infection and multiple organ failure. Tributes were paid to George from around the world, including from arguably three of the greatest football players ever, Pelé, Diego Maradona and Johan Cruyff. Maradona commented, "George inspired me when I was young. He was flamboyant and exciting and able to inspire his teammates. I actually think we were very similar players, dribblers who were able to create moments of magic." Fellow Manchester United legend Eric Cantona gave a eulogy to Best. "I would love him to save me a place in his team. George Best, that is, not God." The Premier League announced that a minute's silence would be observed before all Premier League games to be held over the weekend of his death. However, at many grounds a minute's applause broke out in his honour. The first match at Old Trafford after his death was a league match tie against West Bromwich Albion, the club against which he made his debut for Manchester United in 1963. The match, which United won, was preceded by tributes from former teammate Sir Bobby Charlton. George's son Callum, former teammates and surviving members from the West Brom team, which he played against in his debut, all joined the current United squad on the pitch for a minute's silence. During this, fans in every seat held aloft pictures of George, which were given out before the match. On the day of his funeral, his body left the family home in Cregar Road, East Belfast, shortly after 10 a.m. on Saturday the 3rd of December 2005. The cortege then travelled the short distance to Stormont. The route was lined with around 100,000 mourners. Former Northern Ireland manager Billy Bingham, international teammates Derek Duggan, Peter McParland, Harry Gregg and Jerry Armstrong and Dennis Law were the first to carry the coffin to the base of the Stormont steps. There was an 11 a.m. service in the Grand Hall, attended by 300 invited guests, relayed to around 25,000 mourners inside the grounds of Stormont. George's brother Ian, agent Phil Hughes, Dr. Akil Elisa, who treated George, and his brothers-in-law Norman McNary and Alan McPherson were all pallbearers. The funeral was live on several television stations, including BBC One. Afterwards, George was interred beside his mother, Annie, in a private cemetery at the Hilltop Roselawn Cemetery overlooking East Belfast. Belfast City Airport was renamed GeorgeBest Belfast City Airport as a tribute to George. The official new name and signage was unveiled to a gathering of the Best family and friends at the airport on the 22nd of May 2006, which would have been his 60th birthday. For the first anniversary of his death, Ulster Bank issued 1 million commemorative £5 notes. The notes sold out in 5 days. They later sold on the online auction site eBay for up to £30. In December 2006, the George Best Memorial Trust launched a fundraising drive to raise £200,000 in subscriptions to pay for a life-size bronze sculpture of George Best. By 2008, the money had still not been raised until a local developer, Doug Elliott, announced on the 29th of January 2008 that he would put up the rest of the money and would manage delivery of the project. The life-size bronze tribute was finally unveiled by footballer Pat Jennings and Barbara McNary, George's sister, on what would have been his 73rd birthday in 2019. Let's see where his grave is located.
So there you have it, the grave of professional footballer George Best, some would say the best in the world. As usual, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching, see you on the next one.
Rest in peace, George Best.